live. We should be live now on Facebook and YouTube. We're running a little late, so try to bear with us while we finish getting this set up. It'll take us a few minutes, and then we should be good to go. So just hang in there, everybody, and we'll be right with you. I'm going to give you a little entertainment while we do that, I think. So I'm gonna mute out for a second.
Someone in the company died or something, whatever happened, and stuff happens, and if the beauty of FDN is that it's not based on any one lab. We're not dependent. Now, it definitely threw a screw loose in our works for a very short period of time. We got some other labs right away to replace those ones, and but now I've been working with a new lab director, a scientist, to develop some labs just for us. So we're going to be running labs within a week or so. Tell me anytime you're ready to go, Al. I know you're setting up.
You and I are on the screen. We could wave to everyone on Facebook and YouTube now. That looks cool. And if you could share your screen, we could switch to the slides, and I think we'll be ready to go. So when you're ready, switch your screen. This might be require a little Houdini here, but go for the slides, and I'll bring us up into the thing. Yeah, that's cool.
Going for those now.
Go for the gusto. Let me get rid of this, and if I can, let me unlock this screen, and let me close that. Let me know when you're sharing, Reed.
Here we go. File. Options.
Yeah, this might happen yet. So hang in there, everybody. I think this might actually happen.
Do you want me to also start the broadcast?
Oh, yeah, this is fantastic.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, this is fantastic. If anyone from the FDN team is on YouTube or Facebook, tell us what that baby looks like, because ultimately, I think we're good to go. Got to make a few adjustments, but I think
welcome everybody. We have some staff on the webinar with us. Jess Del Pino, she's been around for a long time. One of our top practitioners, also one of my top aides. She's actually a course counselor in charge of enrollment. A lot of you who were enrolled already in the FDN course probably talked to Jess at some point, because she answers all the questions and gets people prepared for what's coming next, which is some of the most amazing education that I think is available in the functional medicine space. Now, we're not doctors for the most part. We're not teaching medical approaches, but we're teaching an approach that, you're going to see, Al. I'm ready to roll if you are.
We're ready to roll. I think we're ready to roll. I think we're looking good, and I think it's time to let the show begin.
All right. Well, thanks for all your help. Dr. Al and I have been working together since the Wright brothers invented the airplane. And, they were, we were their mentors. We coached them through it, so we've done a lot of good work together. And today's what we're going to cover is why most health coaches have no credibility in the client's eyes, or maybe not enough credibility. You know what I also find out is that people don't have enough credibility in themselves. They're out there and they're doing this work. And so this speaks to a number of issues, the idea of credibility, and how to set proper expectations so both you and the client get what you expect out of working together. We'll go over
before we jump in, let me just say a couple of things to remind people of a few things. Number one, anyone who showed up here, congratulations, and you will get a copy of this this training. So congratulations, and you get it if you're only here for 5 minutes, but I think you're going to find that spending this next 30 minutes with us is going to be critically important. Number two, as we said in all the promotions, the emails, nothing will be sold. We're not here to sell anything. Ultimately, this is a training, and even if you have questions about the FDN program, we won't be able to answer those for you because this is a training, not a sales pitch. However, I'm going to ask the team to do two things for me before we go further. Read. Number one is if someone in the chat could put a link, if someone has any questions about the FDN program. We know most people on this call are already FDNers, and there are some people that want to be FDNers or health coaches wanting to find out more. But as I said, if you have any questions about that, click on the link in the chat. I don't see it in there yet, so maybe we have someone on here helping us with that. Maybe Jess.
Yeah, Jess.
Oh yeah, okay. Jess is going to get it up in a minute, and whoever's manning, yeah, it says that.
All right.
And whoever's manning Facebook and YouTube, if you could put a link in the comments for those people that have questions about the course, so we don't have to deal with that during this training, then we're totally ready to go. I just had to get that out.
Yeah, thanks for the setup. You know me, I just want to jump into the training part. So coaches don't have a lot of credibility, even with themselves, I find. And of course, then that's going to come through in the client size. They're intimidated because they don't have enough faith that they can solve any health problem that someone shows up with. And then setting proper expectations is the key to success. I preach a lot of under promise and over deliver. There's two things that you should never tell a client. We're going to cover that. We'll keep that secret for just a minute. And why the more you charge, the happier their client will be. Oh my God, we all had to go through our money issues or what, you know? And then why every client wants you to run lab tests and which ones. And it's not what you might think. It's, you know, they've already been to the doctor and run a lab and been told nothing's wrong with you. Well, they've been to the doctor and run a lab and it wasn't the right one. So let's just keep going here. So
Okay, don't go keep going. Let me put something in on that also. I want to talk about that in a minute if you don't mind. Can we go back a slide? Oh, cool. So I want to make a reference to the first part of this and realize this, that whenever you're working with a client, remember this is for our FDN practitioners or people that have finished the course or are still in the course. Realize this, everyone that comes to you expects you to run labs. Why? Because every doctor they've been going to for the last 30 years, what do they all do? They associate running labs with being credible. And if you're not running labs, what happens is, and we're going to talk about which labs in a second, but if you're not running labs, you already have lost the credibility in the client's eyes. They think to help them, you need to run labs or at least know something about labs or look at labs. So, and it's really, those labs fall under the heading of setting proper expectations. If a client is used to working with a health professional and wanting to see labs because that's what they've been trained to do, and you don't do that, you all of a sudden fall into, well, this person has no credibility, and you already blew the ability to set the expectations that they'll follow what you're doing. So in FDN, as you know, because, and Reed will talk about why you have the ability to run labs, it's a critical piece of your credibility to work with clients.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I ran thousands of labs on thousands of people. I've been doing it since 1999, and I wasn't a doctor, and I'm still not a doctor. And anyone, absolutely anyone can do this. Matter of fact, your ability to do it has multiplied by 40, 50 times since I started teaching. And so, oopsie. So,
ooh, I think I looked. There you go, cool.
So, now, so without lab testing, you're not meeting client expectations and needs. You're not looking at the whole picture, a whole person. Now you want to, and you're probably good at figuring out sort of the psychological, you know, how distressing this is. You can connect with the person on an emotional level. These are really important parts of being a good health coach. But assessing metabolic chaos is even more important. and creating personalized, like truly individualized health plans based on the lab data, based on facts and figures about their anatomy and their physiology and their biochemistry. That's what you are not doing if you're not doing the lab testing. Basically, you're taking a shot in the dark. So if you look at the picture on the left there, that's metabolic chaos. It's not just the points, these dots here where you've got, oh, leaky gut is one of these rings. And another stone you might throw in the metabolic chaos pool is liver congestion, cortisol dysfunction, gut bugs, microbiome problems and imbalances, food sensitivities. Oh my God, everybody has one or 10 or 20. And then the other metabolic complexities, things in the body. Now, if it was just one thing, and this is why we don't run one test, what you got to understand is that each point or each dot or each marker that you might look at is interacting with other markers, other dysfunctions in the body. That's why I love this picture. I actually searched for it. I had it in my head and I said, if you have a better one, let me know. But the rings interacting with each other makes it very, very complex. So I want to say this about FDN, Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. In a time when something is really complex, it's a must that you have to have a unifying and simplifying approach. We're that approach that unifies and simplifies everyone in the health space.
Oh, can I jump in here? Oh,
yeah, I'm going to pause and let you jump in.
Yeah, I want to tell everyone a quick story. Reed and I, when we talked about this before the event, we talked about what happens when you throw a rock into the water. You see a lot of ripples, but you really, if you're just watching it and you didn't throw the rock, you don't know which one came first. And ultimately, that's really how most people present to you, with a myriad of symptoms, but you don't know which came first. And there's a company called Nutrisystems. You've probably heard of them. They spend $250,000 a month on Facebook advertising. And they're a weight loss thing. You see them on television all the time. 6 months ago, they used to say, if you sign up for Nutrisystems, we're going to give you a week's worth of gut-breaking shakes, to lose your big gut. Well, now belly busting, that's it, perfect, thank you. Belly busting shakes. Now what they say is, we're going to give you a week's worth of immune boosting shakes. What does that tell you? It tells you that the client, your clients, the patients, or I call them patients, these people are now looking at, what's my risk? Am I a high risk? Am I low risk? How's my overall body doing? They're not focused so much on one particular symptom. And as an FDNer, with the tools that we give you, you don't want to be focused on that symptom. That's the mistake all health coaches make. You need to be focused on what Reed has termed metabolic chaos, because that gives you the ability to look at all the ripples that are going on in their body and how everything affects everything else. Now we can go on. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So there's so many. We could spend an hour on this slide just talking about. But let's look at the physiological aspects. So an example of what Dr. L is talking about is someone comes in, and you say, "Well, it sounds like thyroid. The fatigue. They're feeling sad. They got weight they can't get rid of. Their hair's thinning. Their extremities, arms and legs might feel cold or even numb. You've got constipation, and for sure that sounds like thyroid. Now you could, check the thyroid. You might even find thyroid, but when you understand how the body really works, it could be the last thing. That's only one of the little ripple-causing stones in the water. There's all this other stuff going on, and because everything's connected to everything. You see the arrows are pointed on both ends. Thyroid is part of endocrine function. Endocrine function dysfunction results in metabolic chaos, as much as metabolic chaos results in endocrine dysfunction. And then it can go into the nerve cells, neural tissue health, and just nerve cells. You end up with the same client. Now they've got brain fog and cloudy thinking, or they can't sleep. And because of certain vital voids or weak links in metabolism here, it cascades. I talk a lot, not in this video, but we talk a lot about this cascade where they end up with carb metabolism issues, and glucose homeostasis problems, meaning their blood sugar is going up and down, and they're dropping in and out of consciousness with the blood sugar problems. And guess what? They actually are eating pretty well. It's not that they're not eating right. And, you know, you could raise your hand if you've ever had a client who ate pretty well but still had blood sugar problems. It happens all the time. And then, again, these things go back and forth. Everything is kind of a cause of metabolic chaos and a result of metabolic chaos. When you look at the rings on top of the water, each one having an effect upon the other. And you end up with whatever it might be, weight and fat. It could be anywhere on this paradigm. And so we run labs and we sort it out because we don't believe in guessing. Test, don't guess, then follow dress. Dress is our protocol system. You'll see a bit about that. But we run 5 labs on every person. You might say, well, wait, where am I going to get people to spend that kind of money? Well, there's, 350 million people that are doing pretty good in the United States. And that's just the U.S. We're actually in 50 countries. So there's no shortage of them. And they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And they've been through the ringer. They've been through the cycle of trial and error with other practitioners. So believe me, they're going to come to you ready to invest in their health because there's no better investment on the planet. So we run this test for the hormones, a test for metabolic assessments like congestion and oxidative stress and protein breakdown. We always look at mucosal barrier, and we assess that in ways that that doesn't leave much on the table, or you get a really good understanding of the healing opportunities. And the same thing with the gut and GI pathogens, the microbiota screening, the food sensitivity testing. It's hard to predict looking forward who that will help the most, but looking backwards, oh my God, if you didn't run it, you never would have solved that person's problem ever in a million years. So we're glad we run that. Now, this system that these healing opportunities that I recognize working on thousands of people was the hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, and nervous systems with just a few labs, just a little saliva, urine, blood, and stool, just some bodily fluids. You can then assess what's really going wrong. Like what are those rings and how are they interacting with each other? Here's kind of a new saying of mine. It's not so much these dots, it's connecting the dots. Physicians look at a lot of dots. They might treat the paper like thyroid. Oh, that's one dot. And they're prescribing medicine and doing all kinds of things. And we're saying, hey, what about all the other dots and how are they connected? So that's why we do this, and it's a system we teach. And what do you say about that, Dr. Al?
Yeah, go back to that slide before this. I want to make a point. So listen, so Reed explained to you that, and we looked at we spoke about the pebble metaphor. You throw a rock in the water, you get all these rings, and unless you're the person throwing the rock, you don't know which one came first. Well, when a client comes to you, they threw the rock, you didn't, and as a consequence, any of these things could be causing the problem. So the truth of the matter is, when you know that, which test would you run on this patient? Now go to the next slide. So as an FDNer, why would you choose one when we teach you in the course that you should be following, whether you are graduated or still in the FDN course, is you don't guess. When Reed says don't guess, on that, all those pebbles that cause those rings, any of these tests are potentially causing the problem. If you decide, well, I'll only run one test, then what happens? You're going to miss all the other parts of metabolic chaos. As an FDN, we teach you, and you always need to follow the protocol. What's the protocol? You run every test, because otherwise you will never get that patient to where they want to go. And where do they want to go now? They want to know, am I high risk? Am I low risk? Where am I overall? They don't care about, oh yeah, I have thyroid problems, but what's my risk factor? That's what you need to be thinking of. So you run every test just as we teach you to do that.
It's a small handful of very well chosen labs, and just a little bit on my background. I've started in the late 90s in a wellness center after working in the environmental law field, as a conservationist for a long time. I noticed that the environment was pretty much killing everything. And I wondered, well, what's it doing to people? So I changed careers and went to work in a wellness center to study that and to help people instead of just birds and bees and trees. And so what frustrated me was that everyone coming in the office had already seen 10 people, 10 practitioners, or 8 or 5, but they'd spent a ton of money and they weren't better yet. And I personally didn't have any health problems. So I hadn't experienced that. I didn't know what that was like, going doctor to doctor. What are you talking about? I just thought, rip off. What a rip off. So I'm going to be the last person you need to see. I saw it as a great opportunity to serve. I've been serving the planet, now people, and also probably save them some money, and also learn, support myself in a new way. So I had some great leaders that I followed back then. It was called alternative medicine. It wasn't called complementary yet. Complementary hadn't become integrative, and integrative hadn't become functional medicine, which is what it is now. This is 4 generations of practicing ago. And I ran over 10,000 tests on people. This were all walks of life, mostly women. But when they got success, they brought me their husbands and their children. So this works on everybody. And again, I had that great mentorship, but I observed for myself who got better and who didn't. And the most surprising thing, I mean, working close to the underlying cause, that's good. But what's not so intuitive is people with the exact same set of symptoms had completely different upstream dysfunction. It just resulted in the same symptoms. And that's when I came up with that term metabolic chaos. And eventually developed these patterns, the system, FDN, the investigation, the labs, and the DRESS for L6S protocols, how to fix it all at the same time. So we're not diagnosing and treating specifics like a physician, because I'm not one. And my experience from day one was that wasn't working for people. So I didn't want to be one. So, now, of course, it's kind of well known. We're in 50 countries. We teach health professionals from coaches on up how to fill that needs gap, ending the cycle of trial and error for themselves, because most people coming in have their own health problems and they want to resolve those, and then go help others. And I say I practically invented distance coaching because I started lecturing far away from the office and telling people that they didn't need to come in. We could mail you a package of stuff and go over it on the phone. That was back in the days of ultimate technology known as a pager and a fax machine. It's
Jess, let me interrupt 1 second. If you just got here, I want to just remind you that you will get a copy of the replay. Almost everyone here is already in the FDN program or graduated, I should say. If you are a wannabe FDN or learning more about FDN, Jess, I assume that link that's in the chat that ends with SMS webinar is for the ability for people who have questions about the FDN program. We're not taking any of those questions because we're not selling the FDN program. These are for people. We're pulling back the curtain and you see the things that we're doing that are available to people already in the FDN program to make them as successful as possible. So Jess, please make sure that's the right link for them to, if they have questions about the program. Is it?
It says SM webinar. Is it supposed to be?
Well, it says SM webinar. I don't know what that means, but usually it's a career counselor thing, right?
Jess has got it under control. Now, how do?
Oh, that's the one I want. That's perfect.
Yeah. Now, you guys who are doing this know that one of the greatest inventions of the 21st century is our medical director program, because it puts the tools in your hands. It doesn't matter where. This removes geographical boundaries and sets you free to help people anywhere, anytime. If we can ship kits, they can ship their specimens to the labs that we use, then you can do FDN. We're in 50 countries. It's easier in some than in others. Like United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, we pretty much have it made to use the medical director program. I developed this because, remember, I worked in an office and I worked under the doctors there. And so they let me run labs. And when I started teaching, I had to figure out a way, well, how will my students, trainees and graduates run labs? So I created this direct to consumer program. which is completely ethical and legal. As a matter of fact, there was only 2 at the time I started teaching in 2008. You can go back and look it up. Today, there's over 40 companies doing direct-to-consumer, including the 2 biggest labs, Quest and LabCorp. They both have direct-to-consumer programs. Of course, no one knows what the hell they're looking at when they order those, but at least, that's your notice. You're on notice that this is very popular, that it's being done. There's nothing wrong with health coaches looking over the shoulder of their clients. Matter of fact, you're helping them get that done. That's part of your service packages, is that you're teaching them how they can get lab work, and you're looking at it and you're helping to explain it. We don't provide a medical interpretation of labs. We explain the anatomy or physiology involved, sometimes a little biochemistry. All that we teach in the course, as you well know. So this is how you meet clients' expectations and needs. You get the work done, that you get the data that has to be used. We recommend a series of tests, not just one. You know why? There is no one test. There's no one test. It's insane to think you could just run one blood test and go, oh, here's what's wrong with you. And most of the time people are running one blood test, they're hearing, nothing's wrong with you. Raise your hand if you've ever had that. You or someone you know was told there's nothing wrong with your blood work. Yet the person feels like crap. Well, they're just not looking at the right data. And so you guys can just go to fdnconnect.com. That's our portal. We have 82 different labs you can use. Now, in my opinion, you should never use more than 5 to begin with. There's just 5 labs, but because there's protracted cases and there's a lot of things of interest down the road that could be fine-tuned, we have access to an awful lot of labs for you. Just go there. If you're not an FDN, you can't use that portal. But you could find out more about being an FDN by looking in the chat box. Jess, thanks for putting that there. And then, you use that portal, and we drop ship the kits right to your client's house or condo or wherever the heck they are. And so they get the kits. Now, they deal directly with the lab. That's what makes it direct to consumer and totally legal and ethical. So you're not ordering it like, my dentist orders an MRI for my teeth, or a doctor orders a brain scan or blood work. You're just getting them the kits. They're getting this done. And then, of course, you receive the test results, because that's part of your agreement with the customers. Like, I'm going to help you, Mrs. Smith, to explain what's going on in your body. Again, not a medical diagnosis. That would be wrong. You don't have, unless you're licensed, don't do that. Don't use big fancy words. If and some of them you can't use. They're definitely, you get in trouble if you do that. But then, of course, you meet with the client to review and explain. And in 22 years, looking at thousands and thousands of labs, I've never given a medical diagnosis or treatment plan for any one specific thing. But I have explained an awful lot of test results. Matter of fact, I was hired and worked for one lab for 10 years to explain the test results to doctors who were running them on their patients. I just explained. And matter of fact, I still, to this day, I'm a clinical advisor now for a different lab. So anything about that, Dr. Al?
Yeah, could you go back? Yeah, please. So I'm going to sum up what we just talked about and give you the most important points as an FDN that you need to know. We talked about in the very beginning, what did I say? The patient expects you to run labs, and this program allows you to run them. That's the most important thing you need to know. You're an FDNer. We told you got to run all the labs. This gives you the right to do it. You don't have to worry about the cost of it, because the patient is dealing with the lab. They don't see you as the lab expense. You're telling them what labs they need. You order through the medical director program. They don't pay you, they pay the lab. So they don't see that as your expense. So separate those in your mind, because just like when they go get a blood test, they don't pay the doctor, they pay the lab. That is not your fee, so don't get the money part hung up. But the client expects you to run labs. This is the only program pretty much that allows you to do that through the medical director program.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. We're the most pure fee for service of its kind. Like it's just a pure fee for service. Like, I give a guy $10, he shines my shoes. That's a fee for a service. We will pay us to get them the right labs, to explain those labs, and to give them a protocol. Some people don't like to use the word protocol, it sounds medical, but give them recommendations on lifestyle and things to do. And then we work with them for it. That's a fee for service. It's a pure form, beautiful way to do business and to be an entrepreneur and to work your own hours and make all the money you want and lots of satisfaction and things like that. So now let's talk about the next part, Dr. Al. Why don't you start this slide, if you would?
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to. Thanks. So let me tell you what happens when people come to you. They have certain expectations. Here's what their belief system is, and this is why you need to change their belief system. They come in and they believe that somebody, you, is going to give them something to take or going to do something to them that's going to take away whatever their problem is or help them reach their goal. That is a system that does not work. And how do we know that? Most people who come to health coaches, and you as an FDNer specifically, have already been through a number of medical doctors and probably a number of health coaches. And those people, if someone comes to you with an expectation you're going to do something or give me something that's going to change me, then unless you change their belief system, you're going to fail just like everybody else did. So you really need to make them understand one concept, and here it is. The concept is simply this. You have a functional problem. There is some dysfunction in your body that's causing you the issues that you're having. How do we know? Because people that function properly don't have the problems you have. So ultimately, when you have been to whoever you've seen before me, the FDNer, the reason they haven't gotten you better is they're trying to satisfy your belief rather than helping you become more functional. There's a reason we're called Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, because we change people's function. So the first thing I always say to a client is, do you believe you have a rare disease that no one could ever help you with? And they always say the same thing. Well, no, I don't. Well, then why has no one ever helped you? Because no one understands that people like yourself have a functional problem. What we do is make you more functional. When you are more functional, your health will improve, you'll get rid of the challenges that you have, and you'll reach your health goals. Do you understand that? You shake your head yes, they will shake their head yes. And guess what happens when they leave? They say to themselves, Dr. Al knows what's wrong with me. I have a functional problem. He's going to help me because he's helped lots of other people with functional problems. Now, they're not looking for you to get rid of their fatigue. They're not looking for you to get rid of their belching or gas or constipation. They're looking for you to make it more functional. Those people become lifelong clients and refer all their friends. Do you want to be someone who changes their belief? You better be, because if you don't, they're going to go from you to somebody else. Right?
It's so true. Yeah. I have people, Al, that I helped 20 years ago that were women. They were in their 50s and they're in their 70s now. They still are doing the things that I taught them to do a long time ago. So
they
it's
understand.
amazing. Yeah. So in other words, when we show them the objective data and clinically correlate, here's what happens that I'm amazed. And Jess and lots of FDNs who are listening, they could jump on here and tell you the same thing. When you show them the data and you explain it the right way, and like what Dr. Al just said, here's what's dysfunctional, here's what's out of balance, here's what's wrong that you can fix. And you can even talk to them about how it got that way if you want to. That's called clinical correlation. You see the light bulb going bling, 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 bling. Oh my God, their eyes light up and they say, how come no one else ever explained it to me this way? Well, let's just move on. Like, you now understand dysfunction, imbalance, and metabolic chaos, and they're highly motivated. So we change them to that, the functional problem. They can reverse it, resolve metabolic chaos, build health, and feel better in a very short amount of time. We have a whole coaching system for that. So there's 3 steps to this discovery and onboarding calls. This is another part of what Dr. L was talking about with it's setting these expectations. In step 1 is you let the client know you will be interviewing them instead of the other way around. I remember people, they heard about me or they saw me at a lecture. I used to go to libraries and lecture 3-4 times a month for years. And people would come up and they want to start picking my brain. Have you ever worked with anyone with this? Or if what should I take for my hangnails or something? And I would say, look, there's no brain picking here. If you want me to help you, then you have to let me talk to you. I don't know if I can help you unless I can talk to you. And this applies too if they say, I've got a cousin. My cousin's got this. Well, I need to talk to your cousin, not you. Because I could only determine if I can help you if I can talk to you. And I need to interview. It means I need to ask you some questions. I'm going to show you what those questions are in a minute. So we conduct an interview, and then I decide if I want them for a customer or not the other way around. Matter of fact, we have a waiting list practice. And so you need to qualify to even work with us. So at some point, if you decide that A, you can help them, and B, you want to, you like them, or you're resonating a bit, then you can let them know you decided to accept them, offer to help. If they're highly committed enough, ready to start immediately. You can talk. I'm just going to switch to the list of questions here. People can start reading it. But anything to add to that?
I do. You can leave the slide on. That's fine. So ultimately, what I really want, I think the main point here is that I want to make, and then we could talk about these questions, is all the things that we're going over is already part of the course. We teach you all these things to make you successful to working with clients. The problem is for a lot of you, you don't use what we give you. So realize there's a reason that everything is in the course the way it is, because ultimately it's the way to be the most successful. There's a lot of programs in health coaching world that teach you a lot of things, but one of the things they miss out on is how to get you to be more successful, 1, and number 2, how to make your clients more successful. That is integral part. That's why when you go through your lessons, you've seen all this. This isn't new. The problem with most of you, because most of you are FDNers already, is you don't use the materials we give you, which is why we're doing this training. If you leave tonight with one thing saying, I am going to follow what I've been taught in the course, you can't help but be successful. But a lot of you go all down your own pathway and you miss the reason of having someone who's done 11,000 tests like Reed, why this is part of the program. He knows this is easy to do as long as you follow what you've been taught.
Absolutely. And so these are the questions that will set the tone and determine whether you're going to be successful or not. You have to learn to have a conversation. You memorize these. Now, 7 of these are what I've been using for 20 plus years, because over the years, I just developed a system. I had some really good training early on. But one of these I have borrowed more recently, like just 3, 4, 5 years ago. But because it fit in perfectly with our way of thinking. The one thing I learned 20 years ago was that people have to be able to boil it down to 1 or 2 main complaints. If they can't tell you exactly what it is, maybe they're insane. I don't know, but you got to be able to say, if I had a magic wand and could get rid of one thing today, what is it? You have to have a main complaint, because if you're going to track progress over the next 90 days or 180 days, whatever your program is, mine are all 90 days to start with, but you got to be able to track that thing. You can't have that disappear in 2 weeks and then they got a new one and then they got a new one. You'll never satisfy someone like that. So you've got to quantify and qualify what you're working on. And how often does it bother you? If it isn't often, they're not going to hire you. If they say their main complaint is headaches, but it only bothers them once a year, I get them about once a year. No, they're not going to hire you. it's not often enough. But if it's twice a week, that's not normal. And you tell them, I'm sorry to hear that. That sucks for you, and that's not normal. That's not acceptable. You can't accept what's not normal and not, and then you ask, well, how long has it been going on for? And you have to really get into it with them on that, like, because if it's only been for 2 weeks, well, I've headaches. I've only had one in 2 weeks, so it has to have been going on for a while, maybe 6 months, a year. It depends on what the main complaint is. If it's migraines for the last 3 months, that's really bad, and then you have a chance of actually helping that person because they might onboard with you. Now, what have you tried so far that's not worked? This is where you might get into this and that. They've seen doctors, they've seen specialists, they've seen chiropractors or who might have done some good with the spine and things, but if they're still not better, that's why they're sitting in front of you, and you want to know what those things are.
I want to just say, I want to say something about these questions, and I want you to pay attention to why the questions are framed the way they are. And this is one of the giant mistakes that most health coaches make, because they're taught this, but they don't really understand why you ask these questions. What do all these questions have in common? They have in common one thing. It's about the patient, the client. You're telling the client you want to know about them. Most people they go to, especially in the health coaching space, tell the client how great they are. Oh, I understand this. I've taken this course. I've done this seminar. You make it about you, and they don't give a crap about you, to be perfectly honest. They're interested in them. Can you help them? So all these questions and what we teach in the course, you should know this from being in the course, is you make it about the client. They talk about when someone comes to your website, if you have a website, you have 3 seconds to catch their attention. They don't want to know about you in those 3 seconds. They want to know what you could do for them. So ultimately, whether you memorize these questions or don't, leave this slide with this in mind. I need to make it about the client because that's all they care about. They already have a spouse that doesn't listen to them. Why do they want to have a doctor that doesn't listen to them? Right?
Yeah. Well, we're not casting aspersions or anything, but you're right, Al. These are all about the person, and you spend less time talking about yourself and all the amazing things you do and more about the client, and you will onboard more people. Now, depending on how far you've gotten in the course, you may have not. This is one of the last modules where we teach you to onboard. We spend an entire module of the course on onboarding, qualifying, making sure, because I want you to be successful. And if you're not onboarding people, you won't be. If you're not onboarding the right people, the right expectations, you won't be. And so you've got to ask them. I think questions 5 and 6 are probably the most important. Like, what's your main complaint? Easy. How often does it bother you? How long has it been going on for? What have you tried so far? You're getting to know the person. You're determining if they're sane enough to work with you. And because if they can't answer a question straight, then you need to start questioning, is their problem, in the complexities of emotions and things in their head that you might not be able to work so well with. But anything physiological, biochemical, or anatomical, you're absolutely going to be able to help them. So how does this affect your life, or what does it prevent you from doing? They're going to tell you, well, I quit dancing, I quit playing baseball, whatever it might be. If they can't come up with some good answers, and then you could pursue that a little further, like, well, what does playing baseball do for you? Oh, I get to enjoy my friends and go out drinking afterwards. Whatever the hell it is, it's making them happy. And so then what may stop you from completing a health building program? This is where you get into, you really are deciding if you want them as a customer or not. Because if they've done 10 programs and haven't completed any of them, it's not the program, it's them. My lawyer told me that once. He said, I referred someone to me. He goes, no, I didn't take them on. He goes, they talk bad about the previous 5 lawyers that didn't help them. So I know it's not the lawyers, it's the person. So you really got to decide, and connect with the person. They have to be able to answer these things sanely. Now, 7 is, what would you reasonably expect to achieve while working with me? If it's, what is this, March, and they're a size 14 and they want to be in a size 3 bikini by June, that's not going to work, so it's got to be reasonable. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to solve this?
And those are the men.
Those are the men. Yeah. On a scale of 1 to 10, importance is to solve. Look, if they're not a 9 or 10, don't take them on. Raise them up to a 9 or 10. It might mean they have to go away and suffer for it. It might just mean you need to talk to them. We teach you all kinds of ways to get them to be a 9 or 10, because you can emphasize how important it is. And if they've answered those questions, like, well, like what it prevents them from doing, and when they connect and they really understand that you're there to help, they'll say, okay, then I'm a 10. So we've done just a little conversation about getting them to a 9 or 10, because I won't work with 7s or 8s. They don't work hard enough, and they don't stay committed, and they cheat. And so they're willing to pay you up front. You're not a customer if you haven't paid me. I know that my lawyer, every time I go to see him, has his hand out for a $5,000 check. Yeah, Reed, I'll handle that. Write me the check. So we're professionals too. We get paid too. And for anyone who's a consumer who's just kind of snooping around here, that's the way it works. We are professionals, and we're highly skilled, highly trained. We're totally committed to you. If you're committed on a 9 or 10, I'm committed on a 9 or 10. I'm going to make every single phone call. I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to answer all your questions. I'm going to correct course as we go, and all these sorts of things. So you can count on me. I need you to just behave yourself, and you have to want to start right away. You're not a client. Like, I've had my students and you guys, when you call me, say, well, I have a client and she's this and she's that. And I'm like, so you charge her up front and they've started already? Well, no, she's not going to start until next month because her daughter's getting married. Well, then she's not a client. They have to have paid you. They have to be starting today or tomorrow, or, if it's the weekend, Monday, or don't accept them if they're not at these levels. And trust me, when you start operating like a professional, you've got the labs and you've got your confidence that you can help resolve metabolic chaos. Like, it doesn't matter what their doctor's diagnosis is. I know that there's stuff going on upstream, and Reed and 3,000 of his trainees are graduates, including especially our 500 member alumni professional group, 500 members. If they're out there doing this, then you can do it too. You offer the clients what they're really looking for now. Nobody's symptom-based anymore. If you're talking about, I can get rid of your headache, that's a lie. You might be able to, but don't say it that way. You must be able to sort out metabolic chaos, reduce their risk for getting sick. When Dr. Al told you about the company that used to be belly busters, but now they're immune boosters, why do you think that is? Because people there's millions of people out of work because of what happened last year. People got shut down. So it's about their risk for getting sick. They're concerned. It's why they're lining up for that vaccine. It's to reduce the risk. So we can do that too, without getting stuck with the needle. Now, eliminate the cycle of trial and error. We're going to be the last person they need to see, and work with people you can help, who have reasonable expectations.
Yeah, let me just say, for those people who have questions about FDN, we're not answering those. There are links in the chat, and there should be links online on Facebook and YouTube. I'm saying that because we're already 20 minutes over what we promised, so we're going to run through the rest of these slides. So if we could just start flashing through these slides.
Okay.
Cover
There's
the
only a
points.
couple more.
Okay, cool.
One of our graduates, Jen Maleka, she has this. She went into training the graduates. She has a practice business essentials course, and we're just using that now. The 4 E's of exceptional service. If you charging someone professional prices, which we all do, we're all doing very well for ourselves now. And in the time of COVID, we told we already work at home. We already work from home. The hours that we set for ourselves at the prices we set for ourselves. Enrollment, expectations, execution, engagement, it has to be first class. All that's in there. more practice business essentials, the consultation, collecting payment. Well, this is all done very professionally. Jen even sends out a gift to every new client. Of course, she charges them all $5,000 per package. So I guess she could send them a few paleo bars and some probiotics, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
and she gets it up front. Now, you can charge your own prices. And then first class service steps, again, this is taught in an adjunctive practice business essential course. This is not part of the FDN course, but it's available to you. And this is how it really works. We coach up vital reserve while we coach down metabolic chaos. The body knows what to do. The body's immaculately intelligent. Every cell no cell has to be taught what to do. And again, I want to mention our group of alumni, of which Dr. Al and Jess, who's helping us out here, are members of. It's an amazing group. You pay very small dues, next to nothing. When I was in Cancun last week, Al, all the vendors were coming up and they would have their stuff for sale, and I'd say, no, gracias, no necesito, no quiero. And they would say, it's almost free, man. So
let me say something about, let me say something about this, because this is really important. One of the challenges that a lot of FDNs think is that, oh, I'm not at a high enough level yet to participate in your Pro Series, your case studies, all the things that we give you as part of the FDN program. But the idea is that you want to rub shoulders with all of these people that are more successful or as successful as you. So we give you access to all these things, flat and simple. Take part in them. That's why we give them to you. No one other program gives you all the stuff we give you. Don't think, well, I need to be top of the game, expert in health coaching before I can participate. No, you participate from day one, because that's how you get to the next level. Next slide.
So when you do, if you haven't taken the FDN course yet, if you're not an FDN yet, or if you're still in the course, keep in mind that you get 2 additional certifications. These are board certifications, American Association of Natural Wellness Coaches. And if you're licensed American Natural Wellness Coaches Board, it's remarkable the amount of support and recognition we have from other agencies. And it's really simple. If you're just starting out, like I said, you've got a system that the top functional health professionals use, even some licensed practitioners, to unravel metabolic chaos. It's all science-based, run the right labs, highly individualized protocols. We actually resolve metabolic chaos, ending that cycle of trial and error. And you can be the last person they need to see. Feeling amazing, doing your best work, helping clients feel it, perform at their best. And finally, for current students and grads, you can access all these resources in your student portal, fdnconnect.com. If you're not an FDN, that won't work for you. If you're an aspiring functional health professional, schedule a free career counseling session at fdn.today career. I think, Jess, you put another link that goes to the same page in the chat box there. Looking over there.
Does it go to the same page? Does it go to the same page?
It goes to the same page.
Okay, so let me just say a couple of things also about this. Number one, because you're on this webinar, whether you're an FDN or not, and we know most of you already are FDNers, you're going to get an email with the replay, so you can go through some of the finer points. The second thing is, everyone is going to get a link to a survey. Please complete that survey. It helps us make these trainings better and gives us the ability to focus on what you really need. So don't ignore that survey. I also want to say that we're doing this training 3 days this week. The next one's Thursday at 3 o'clock Eastern time, which is where I am, and noon Pacific time, which is where Reed is. They're all a little different, but you really should, and we're going to make sure that the one we do on Thursday and the one we do on Saturday is going to only run 30 minutes. We ran into some technical difficulties. So I don't want you to miss those because we ran so long. So make sure you plug in again. We find that when we do these, and we did these last month, I think in the month before, most of the people on the call come back to each one of those because there are things that you miss. And remember, as an FDNer, everything we spoke about, you're getting. There's nothing here that we showed you that is going to, that you don't have access to. The problem with most FDNers who are not knocking it out of the park is they ignore what we teach them. So realize that everything that you've seen here, you've already gotten. Just got to do it. You got to use it. You got to pay attention to it. And I think that pretty much sums it up.
Thanks, Dr. Al. I forgot that we were going to do a short webinar today, and so I might have rambled on a little bit there, but
Yeah,
you know,
that's okay.
yeah, I'm really excited about what we do and how this helps people. And this is the wave of the future. I've been a leader in the health coaching space for many years, and we've defined what is beyond functional medicine. This is beyond that. It's beyond any health coaching system. It's how to get people really well. So thanks everyone for being here. Thanks, Dr. Al. Thanks, Jess, for hanging in there with us. And
yeah, Jess, make sure that link in the chat is correct, because like Reed said, we have two different links here. One's Today Career, the other one is
that goes
Advisor.
that one in there, functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com/advisor, goes
The
to
same
this.
one?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's perfect. I didn't want to confuse anybody, so that's great.
Yeah, that's the one that you can book
No,
a call with.
Only you and I are confused. Everyone else
That's
is
right.
All right, bye.
That's right. And also make sure that's in the comments, Jess, in Facebook and YouTube, if you don't mind.
All right, love you, man.
Love you too.
Bye.
Ciao, guys. I am going to end this right now. See everybody.